Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Tosh Customs. It's been a minute, but we're back, and I wanted to share this custom figure with you. This is for my personal collection. It is the SHF Taskmaster figure, but heavily modified, redesigned, whatever you like to call it. And I wanted to share it with you guys because I think it's really cool. There's a lot of fun elements in this design, and I wanted to just talk about it. So here we are, we're back finally, and let's dive in. So first of all, as you can see, a very different paint job than what the standard movie Taskmaster had. All the orange bits across the body, I completely blacked out. I didn't like it. He has this sort of like T, or she, if you want to go by the movie, has this sort of T motif going on in the knee pads and the sides of the boots. The gauntlets have been covered up, but that same T motif was there in the gauntlets as well. And to me, it felt just like a little bit tacky, a little bit overdone in terms of presentation, just because they sprinkled a bunch of little T designs everywhere. I just thought it was kind of weird. So blacked all those out completely, gave everything a black wash as well, and that really helps bring out some of this like metal speckling and weathering that you can see across the surface here. I really like that. A lot of nice weathering and grime that I was able to put in. And then after that, I sort of had to decide how I wanted to color block everything. So the first thing I did was, all of this used to be like a very bright blue. I left this bright blue here, but then on some of these outer edges, I darkened it with some matte black, and you can still see some metallic blue through it. But the whole idea was just to sort of tone down all the blue elements in the suit, so that they weren't nearly as punchy as they were before. Also, the straps on the legs, they were all done in just straight blue. So I painted that in with a little bit of black wash, and so it just sort of helps differentiate from the surface into like all the little striations of like the material, all the little fibers of the material, I guess. On top of that, all this more mesh patterning that they've sculpted throughout, I painted that in a gray just so that you get some differentiation in the undersuit. And that was really important just to sort of help set the character off. As you can see here, more of that mesh in the gray and then more of that black wash into the straps. Just to really bring out the difference in the paint job. So that was really important in sort of redesigning the base suit in terms of what was just going on, how to recolor things, simplify them, clean them up a ton. We're gonna jump up to the head now. So I don't like the SHF hood. The way their hood works, and let me go grab the spare one real quick. The way the hood works is you have this lower portion. Ooh, dropped it. You have this lower portion that sits into the neck. So where this hood goes, this actually slides down into the chest, basically. And so you don't get much head flexibility. It's because of the shape of it, you can see it's a little bit triangular, sort of triangular like that. It stays pretty fixed. So with the hood up, you don't get a lot of head movement. And then on top of that, just the general pose of it, the weight of it feels off. It feels too floaty over the head. So I just said, we're discarding that entirely. We don't need it. We're redesigning the character ground up. So we're going to go hood down all the time. I think it looks better. This looks good. On top of that, the faceplate was all basically silver with a little bit of black. And honestly, it's just not a very good look. It lacks the characteristics that Taskmaster had, and one of those is, obviously the big skull mask. So I decided to paint over the silver with a flat white, and so you can still see where the white and the silver end. I scratched and scuffed it up so that it looks like it's been painted over and there's some weathering on it. So I actually took a little needle tool, and you can take anything you want. Just make sure it has a fine enough point. But I took like this needle tool and actually just etched in all the little areas where I wanted some silver scratching to come through. And then on top of that, I also painted some black around the teeth, up under the nose there, and just coming up through to pick out some of the already sculpted detail, which really got washed out with the silver paint because the bright silver they use is so shiny that you can't really appreciate the sculpted detail. So painted all that in black, added some weathering to it, and that looks really nice. On top of that, I knew that I'm running with much more of like a black-blue color scheme here. So I said, okay, I need the Taskmaster orange, but I don't want it overpowering. The previous design has orange just everywhere. It's on the armbands, like we said, it's in the little T motifs everywhere. It's really aggressive and it's really bright. And so I said, I want to pull that back a little bit. I want to keep a much simpler color scheme. So I decided to just paint the visor orange. So you can see he's got all these little sort of holographic display bits underneath. That is actually a separate visor piece that you can insert. I'm not going to take it apart now because I'm afraid it's going to it's going to mess up the paint. But so I sprayed the orange underplate, I guess we would call it. And then after that, I also sprayed with a trans clear orange this visor over the top. So the inside of the visor is painted orange, and that's how you get that really nice depth across the board. If this was on the if it was painted on the front surface, it wouldn't look right, but it's painted on the inner surface, and so you get that light, you get the ability for the light to pass through really nicely. And then along the edges, because I wanted this to be a holographic surface, I wanted to create sort of like a light source. So I mixed this pearl white with some trans orange to get that sort of glowing effect along the edges of the visor there. On top of that, we have some little red detailing here, sort of like he's got these big old listening devices on the side of his head, or they're like a comms unit. So I think that's pretty cool. And once again, a bit more weathering all around. Coming down to the chest, I wanted to play with something a little bit more unique here. So we have this rib cage design that's painted across. I added some dripping detail, as you can see. Maybe hand painted it himself, but something to add a little bit more personality. Originally, I didn't have this, and he felt like a generic soldier with a skull mask, and I wanted to add personality and life to the character. So having something that looks more personalized really helps bring that out. And it also plays more with the skull idea here. Once again, this is sort of like my envisioning and redesign of it. And so if I want to have this insanely talented specialist hitman, little bit of these details goes a long way. And I like that the rib painting is broken up by these breaks in the armor. You know, I assume that almost like the Arkham Batman, this allows him more flexibility when moving because these can compress inward when he brings his arm forward. Obviously, functionally, it doesn't work like that here, but that's the idea. Coming down to the belt, I didn't want to give up a T motif completely, so we have these red highlights coming through that look a little bit like a T. On this side of the belt here, I have a little sticky bomb, or maybe it's a shield generator, who knows, whatever you want it to be. But I like that there. I took a little bit of inspiration from the Blackguards from Tron. They have these little sticky bomb mines that line sort of like from their waist to their legs. They have like 3 or 4 of them. And so I said, hey, maybe he should have one too that he can throw out. And then we also have some other sort of smoke grenades here, or gas grenades, on the back side of the belt. I wanted to line all of these on the left side because ideally, if he's shooting with his right hand, you want to have all these throwables in the left so that he doesn't have to drop his gun, take his finger off the trigger, stuff like that. So, you know, we were still thinking about functionality and how we're placing some of these accessories. Talking about functionality, we also have a pouch here. And if you're familiar with the original SHF Taskmaster, the pouch normally sits like way higher, like it bumps up right against this like waist section. So I removed it, I sort of flipped the peg around, and I was able to shift it down by, I don't know, like 2 or 3 millimeters maybe. And that gives him such a larger range of motion, especially when you engage the hip. You can basically get to like an almost full 90 kick outwards. This is probably like 80 degrees right here, so it's pretty good. So yeah, really increase the range there. And then on this side, if you're familiar, there's normally a fixed holster that is either filled or empty with the revolver. And let me pull that piece out right now. So here's the empty one. So normally there's a peg in the side of the leg, and then you can fill in with like this empty revolver holster, or there's another model that has the actual revolver in it. And I just thought that was dumb. It's like, give me a functional holster. So I took a holster off of the, I think it's Dragon Force SCP, like Special Ops Soldier. Cut that off, pasted it onto the leg here, added some little silver detailing in the holster there, dry brushed it with a little bit of matte black just to bring out the detail. And then also took the pistol from that character as well, painted a little bit of red into the grip because figured that would look pretty nice, and also put some black into the slide, or like into the ejection port. So there you go, we got the pistol there as well. And the nice part is you can still take the original SHF revolver that he comes with, and it also fits in here too because it's a very soft material. So whether I want him to be rocking this like Rhino revolver or the suppressed pistol, either one works. So pretty cool stuff there. So now I want to talk about the rest of the loadout really quick and how I designed it. So we have this big old shoulder attachment up here. Once again, in sort of trying to keep this as grounded as possible, I painted some little warning yellow lines up here. It looks like we have some kind of pressurized release lever on the back. And the idea is for this sword. My goal for Taskmaster was to keep him very ambidextrous in design. And so the idea is he can shoot and, and use bladed weapons or, melee with either hand. He's very adaptable, and I want the suit to reflect that. The normal Taskmaster suit, both in the movie and in the comics, isn't really reflective of his fighting style, so I wanted to bring that more into play here. So first we have the sword, and you can see that the detail-wise, it has all these little tiers. It almost feels like a box cutter or something, where it's like retractable or folds into itself. So to play off of that idea, obviously it's been repainted. Now we have a metallic red edge. I wanted to feel a little bit superheated, and once again step away from that sort of bright orange motif a little bit. So I think this red is really nice. I did keep the little Taskmaster logo on the base of the hilt or on the handguard there, just as a nod. So we have that. But the idea is that this blade is able to fold into itself and click in to this storage container. And so because this storage unit is, we would guess pressurized, Taskmaster can unlock it, whether it be like on some control on his gauntlet, or maybe it's just a verbal or mental cue, but unlock it and have it actually spring out and deploy and sort of like click into place. So this automatic well-hidden storage sheath, and I placed it up here sort of coming over the shoulder just so that it actually makes sense for him to reach across and be able to grab it as it deploys out. So, handle could pop out, grab the handle, and then everything click, 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 click across and deploys just like that. So we have that going right there. The next thing we have, once again, talking about ambidextrous, I wanted to add a heavier shoulder plate because that allows him a little bit more defense, especially since the right hand is the shooting hand. It means he's going to probably be having this left shoulder forward a little bit more as he's fighting. So I want this to catch some of the damage, put a little bit of denting and scuffing in there. And I was able to match the bright silver as well as the blues pretty well. This is a 3D printed piece. I think it's from DTG. So got that little bit more bone motif there on the little bicep plate. And then down here, I took the gun model, or like the little wrist guard gun model from Deadshot from the Suicide Squad, and I put that on his left arm. I sanded it down, I fitted it to the angle. And once again, the idea is he's ambidextrous, so he can unholster his pistol from here. If he needs to, he also has a backup gun right here on his wrist. Coming to the hands really quick, I did paint these with this little bit of electric blue. Hopefully that's coming through. There it is. With this electric blue on the knuckles, and I took inspiration from Batman Arkham Origins, where he had the electric gloves later in the game. So I really thought that idea was cool. I also kind of thought of Deus Ex, like Mankind Divided, with the taser knuckles that shoot the homing darts. So I really like the idea of having more of a non-lethal option within the kit. Coming to the right arm now, I sculpted a little 7 into this shoulder plate. I don't know why I chose 7. 7 doesn't really mean anything to Taskmaster. It looks good. It's painted in a little bit of gold, and I just need a detail on the shoulder. So I said, hey, why not a unit number of some kind? Coming down to the other forearm gauntlet, I've been really into painting like little warning decals recently. I also did this on my War Machine figure. I haven't posted that yet, not officially, but it just adds a little bit extra grounding. I read an Instagram post from this concept designer that I really respect, and he was talking about bringing very small real world details into your designs because that allows just an extra level of believability. And so I said, hey, if I'm going to have this like knife gauntlet here, there would probably be warning signs like ejection warnings and stuff like that. So for itself, this is in the undeployed mode. And then I have this squared off blade here that is keyed. You can see there's, if the camera picks it up, there's like several tiers right there. And I actually hand sanded this down to key into the different tiers that I sculpted within the gauntlet. So as you can see, it's very, very secure. And I'm pulling, it takes some effort to pop out. So it's a very, very secure piece, even though it's very thin. And the nice part is this is like very hard plastic, so that's good. So we have this squared off blade with a little bit of blue electricity. I was inspired once again by Deus Ex with the squared blade, as well as I think it's Black Ops 3 or Black Ops 4 with the Spectre blade from one of the operators. So I was just thinking about arm blades, and I was like, this is a really, really cool design. The squared off blade makes it a bit more unique, and I like the single cutting edge here. Looks really good. So we got a blue glow through that just to diversify the color a bit. And once again, warning label so that when this jumps out, no one's surprised. Everyone has their proper warnings. Everyone's been taken care of and is safe. So we have that arm blade there. Coming down to the boots and the lower legs, I really didn't do too much. I picked out some things in paint, like the bottoms of the boots I picked out in a deeper black, whereas this is more of like a black gray up on the boots there. Yeah, not too much to speak about on the backside here at all. A couple other noteworthy things. I painted his little Black Panther claw hands with a metallic red. I like the idea of it sort of being laser energized or superheated, sort of like the sword, so that it's easier for him to tear into and cut metal. I think that looks good. It's better than making up a fake vibranium metal. I think just heating it up is pretty nice. So we have that. And then the other cool thing I really like is I made this custom PCC, I think, yeah, pistol caliber carbine idea. So I drilled a little hole into the back of the pistol. I put this retractable stock. It used to be retractable, but the butt of the stock was super, super loose, so I ended up just gluing it in place. Sanded and put on this little scope here, as well as put on a removable suppressor. So I like it. I really, really like it. A, because it looks a little bit homemade, which is kind of how this whole suit looks in terms of the personalization. Obviously, this is super, super high tech. But, once again, talking about elements of personalization, the bones here, the face paint, all just like, little personal touches from him. I thought it would be cool for him to craft his own custom gun that he'd be using on the field when deployed. So it has sort of a Vector-esque profile, but obviously this is just a heavily modified automatic pistol. So probably a little bit more of a common caliber. The magazines are probably a little bit more universally interchangeable. So I thought this was pretty fun and a nice little extra thing to have in his kit. So yeah, that is my Taskmaster custom figure. I wanted to just add a lot of personality and change up the design a bit. I ended up going with this bright or sort of like chilly red because it adds a little bit more pop and contrast, and I like that the orange visor now feels more of a nod to the original design versus just taking the palette, taking the color palette and just transposing it over the new design. So what I really didn't like about the Taskmaster figure, that the design didn't feel balanced. So I think this brings a lot of balance, a bit more grounding, and some more personalization to it. So there you go. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thanks for coming back. Sorry I've been gone so long, and I'm glad to show you this today. Take care.